Hi folks, how are we all doing? I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. I do hope you're able to find the love and you're witnessing the blessings that are out there and in our lives in these very, very difficult times. It's hard, my friends, but remember, we're all in this together. We need one another. We can't be physically close, but we can be tied in heart, mind, spirit, and soul. So I'm offering these devotions, offering a little bit of hope, doing what I can, playing my role, being a part of the solution. These devotions are offered as a balm to soothe our hearts, our minds, our spirits, and our souls. And the title for today's reflection is Ikigai, as meaning emerges. So I invite us just to still ourselves together now. Let's invite a loving presence to be here amongst us, and of course, to awaken from deep, deep within us. I have lit the flame of freedom in this cup of belonging, acceptance, and love. This day is a new day that has been given to us. Let us then rejoice in it and be glad. Let's count our many, many blessings. Let's be grateful for the incredible gift, the ultimate free gift, the gift of life, for the capacity to see, to feel, to hear, to understand. Let's give time, let's be grateful for any time that we're given to just settle down and be still, to experience what it means to truly be alive, and for the work that's to be done and the service that is to be rendered. But let's take time to settle, to seek inspiration, to do the work that needs to be done and the service that is to be rendered. And let's especially be grateful for the ties of love which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth and joy to all of our days. Amen. Some time ago I attended, quite unintentionally actually, it was completely by mistake, a workshop led by a young woman who worked for Citizens UK. She talked about the organisation, its purpose and what it can offer individuals and groups in an attempt to empower them so that they can bring about change in their own communities. One aspect of their method was to encourage individuals to examine and talk about their stories. In this way, individuals and groups can find common ground and then hopefully find ways in which they can work together. At one point, we were asked to explore the things that make us angry, the things that get our passion flowing. She asked where our pain came from, explaining that this is where inspiration to act comes from. She talked of the etymology of the word anger, which always pricks up my ears. Anger comes from the Old Norse word ang, meaning distress, grief, sorrow, affliction. She then talks about the positives that can then grow, these positives that can grow from pain, explaining that there's two forms of anger actually. There's cold anger and hot anger. She suggested that hot anger consumes and controls a person, leading to irrational and ill thought out actions that can make things worse than they were originally actually, whereas cold anger is more thoughtful and reacts to the individual rather than the other way round. She suggested that this type of anger can be harnessed positively and can lead to change. We were shown several methods employed by Citizens UK that help people to explore their own lives, to examine their own stories and to find out what really matters to them. We tried several of these exercises, and as we did so, I thought of the things in my own life that had hurt me deeply and caused lingering anger. Anger and hurt that had at periods in my life been destructive and paralysing. I then thought of how these hurts and angers had in time turned into something positive and how meaning had eventually emerged from them in the person that I am today and the life that I live now. Meaning and deep, deep love had emerged from the deepest, most painful experiences of my life. And as I sat there reflecting, I thought of some of the gospel accounts, and I remembered the anger of Jesus towards the money changers, along with the images of his compassionate, loving eyes and gaze, these two contrasting images, the loving eyes and the anger. I remembered how his life was motivated by love, but that he was not immune from anger when people moved beyond the pale. I thought of the passage of the rich young man who could not give up his love of money in order to follow what his heart truly desired. His worship of money was too great, it seemed, for him to give it up and lead him to follow his true bliss. And I then thought of one of my favourite verses from the classic hymn, Dear Lord and Father of Mankind. This is the verse. O Sabbath rest by Galilee, O come of hills above, where Jesus knelt to share with thee the silence of eternity, interpreted by love, interpreted by love. Interpreted by love. Interpreted by love. The repeated line, interpreted by love. It just stayed with me and it dwelt in that place deep in the soul of me. I thought to myself, everything of true meaning must be interpreted by love. That this is where the true meaning in life comes. This is what must motivate all life, and this is the thing of highest worth and value and meaning in life. And that if you put anything in front of this, you will be consumed by it. And interestingly, as if by chance, in another workshop, the very next day we explored this very hymn, but in a kind of weird, interestingly prayerful sense. It is a classic hymn, though. It's not really a shock, but it was just interesting that it came up then. The very things I've been thinking about, we explored prayerfully in that session. It was beautiful. It was interpreted by love, and there's no doubt about that in my mind. Now, of course, all of this awakened my homiletic consciousness. My mind slipped back to a word I'd come across when flicking through Facebook, actually, on the train journey to Worthing and that Fuse Festival, the Festival of Unitarians in the southeast. As I travelled down earlier that day, the Citizens UK workshop had preceded the Fuse Festival, and I only attended the workshop because I arrived so early. And the word that I came across while travelling down was Ikigai. And Ikigai, that's how it's meant to be pronounced, I don't know. It's a Japanese word that simply means the thing that makes your life worth living, the things that give your life meaning, the things that make your life worth dying for. I wonder what it is that gives each of you meaning in life. What gives you meaning? Ponder, perhaps, ponder. Now, there are, of course, many who would tell us that life has no real meaning, that life is essentially meaningless. I was once one of those people, actually. When the old pleasures were gone, there was no meaning left. Just a life meaning nothing, a life meaning nothing. Thank God that's no longer the case. Things have changed. I see through the same eyes, and yet I see so much difference. I see so differently. And then, shock horror. Viktor Frankl floated into my consciousness. Does all the time, if I'm honest. A friend who I had witnessed awakening these last few years had told me he'd just started reading the book Man's Search for Meaning, just days before. Another friend, he told me, had recommended it to him months earlier. It made me smile, but I did not, thank God, mention to the man that it was I who had initially recommended the book to our mutual friend. I didn't need to steal that moment. My ego was just down enough, I think, that day. But I didn't need to, because the love was coming back and multiplying tenfold. Here was further meaning growing in another soul, growing on and on and on. Something we'll all benefit from. A bit on Man's Search for Meaning. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl gives an account of his struggle to find meaning when held as a prisoner in the Nazi death camps of the Second World War. He lost most of his family and friends in the camps, and yet he never lost hope in humanity. Frankl was the founder of what has often been referred to as the Third Viennese School of Psychotherapy. Freud founded the first, which was based on the central role of libido or pleasure principle in human psychology. Alfred Adler founded the second, which emphasized the importance of the will to power and the significance of the superiority-inferiority complex in human behavior. In contrast to these two schools, Frankl's psychology is based on the will to meaning, which he saw as the primary motivating force in human life. He named it logotherapy, taken from the Greek term logos, which means word, or it could mean reason, or also meaning. Logos also means meaning. Think of the opening words from John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, in the original translation, the word here, of course, is logos. So if you read that differently, you could say, in the beginning was the meaning, and the meaning was with God, and the meaning was God. For Frankl, of course, meaning did have a transcendent origin. He saw a spiritual dimension beyond the biological and psychological. He saw the suppression of this spiritual dimension as the root cause of our human malady. Therefore, the task of logotherapy was to remind patients of their unconscious religiousness, to uncover the spiritual dimensions of their lives, enable them to recover the capacity to choose those values which give our lives worth and meaning. Now, this meaning is, of course, different for everyone. He did not see one universal meaning. As Frankl said himself, for the meaning of life differs from man to man, from day to day, and from hour to hour. What matters, therefore, is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life at a given moment. Frankl claimed that meaning is discovered through creative and worthwhile activities, by creating something beautiful or doing good. That meaning can be found through experiencing and sharing in the beauty of art or nature, or through loving and ethical encounters with others. That even in the most horrific and terrifyingly hopeless situations, we still have the capacity to choose our attitudes towards whatever circumstances we are faced with. It is our response to life's events that shape our souls. Remember this, it's very important, powerful. Remember, Frankl developed his theory during the utter despair and horror of the Nazi death camps. As Frankl himself said, Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's own attitude in any given set of circumstances. Now, I attended many other wonderful workshops throughout that weekend and experienced many more beautiful moments of connection and conversation. Far too many to go into now. But there was one that stood out, and it was during a session about listening in which we were asked to break into threes and to listen to one another in non-responsive and non-judgmental ways. Now, just as we broke into a three there were originally 5 groups of 3 actually, just by chance it would seem, another person came in late and wanted to join the group. So there were now 16. The facilitator of the group asked if one of the 3s could become 2 2s, and the group I was in decided to do so. So we were now 2 2s, just 2. This meant that the whole process did not work as it was meant to, but what actually followed was deeply meaningful and seemingly exactly what my partner in the exercise required right then. He began to speak about something I had shared publicly some time ago that had helped him immensely and had led him down a path, it seems. I couldn't even remember saying it, but it did sound like something I would say from what he told me about it. Yeah, it definitely sounded like something I would say, so yeah, I'm sure I said it. My partner then began to open up about some pain and struggle he'd been going through. We spent the whole session sharing and listening uninterrupted, and he seemingly came to a place of conclusion in the time that we shared together. It was wonderfully powerful to see someone come alive and awaken there right in front of your eyes. It's what my work's all about, really. Wow, mind-blowing. The session had not gone the way it had been planned, but something far more important had emerged instead, something deeply moving and meaningful. Now, some will suggest that that was meant to be, and perhaps this is true. I don't know. Who does know? Who can say for certain? But my preferred conclusion, if you like, is that this was a moment of possibility for both of us, a moment we took, and as we did, meaning emerged from it due to our response to the given situation and the many, many situations that followed it. I believe that it is a perfect example of the meaningful interchange, really, and how the very lure of divine love operates. You see, I don't believe that God controls every interaction in life. I don't believe in predetermination. But I do believe that this divine love is trying to lure us beyond something to our better selves, if you like. It's offering itself constantly, but it's up to us to respond, to turn, if you like, to turn toward it, to turn to love, to return to love. That's what conversion means, by the way. Converter means to turn or to return. It's the beginning as we turn in a different direction. And as I turn, it's certainly how meaning emerges in my life, as I'm lured beyond to something new. My task, and I believe it's all our task actually, is to stay open to these moments. And by staying open to every moment, our own meaning emerges from them. As each moment passes, we're drawn on. There are those that say that life has no meaning, that nothing matters in life. I have been one of those people at times in my life. But these days I see no truth in such statements. These days I see meaning in everything, even the most painful moments in life. In fact, I have discovered that it has been through coming through these most painful moments that the greatest meaning has emerged. It's not justifying the pain, but it's doing something about it. It's doing something with it. It doesn't come immediately either, but eventually, as I've been able to give back to others from the experience of suffering I have experienced and or witnessed. This in no way justifies the suffering. Please do not get me wrong. I am in no way suggesting any such thing. No way. No, what I am saying is that through living openly, meaning can emerge. Meaning can emerge from living by the way of the lure of divine love. Let's live that way. How can you resist? I'm going to end today's reflection with a few words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more, and we can all bless. We do so by giving our whole hearts to life. So let's begin right here, right now. Let's give our whole hearts to life. So I offer these words as a final blessing for today. May the love that gives to life its beauty, the reverence that gives to life its sacredness, and the purpose that gives to life its deep significance, may it be strong within each of us and lead us into ever-deepening relationships with all of life. And may the love of God go with us all, in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Go in love. Amen.